This is Arvat McLean
And Dianna Wright.
of Speak, The Universe Listens. Today's topic is, are your strengths holding you back? So can you think of times when your strengths could have actually been something that have held you back?
Yes. For years and years, I would say I've been good at doing a particular thing, and that's what I've done. So stepping outside of that is not even something where I would even think about, or not, thinking about other things that I can actually do. Why think about those things when I'm good with this,
Right.
and I've been good with this, and I've excelled in this, so I don't need this over here. But when you stop and you think about it, it's so much over here, so yes, that I would say that could hurt me.
Yeah, so I think that too, and it happens a lot when, let's say, people go to school for a certain reason. Let's say they go become a counselor. They get a job as a counselor. They work for years as a counselor, and then every job that they look for thereafter will be as a counselor, but not realizing that they have already developed a whole set of skills that could be utilized in other places and other fields if they wanted to. But also, we'll get so pigeonholed into a certain thing that we're kind of afraid to even look outside and develop other skills, other things that we could be good at, but also that we could love. So, yeah.
And, when you mention being afraid or that fear, I think that's a lot far as like with me that's kept me in a certain place. Because that's really the unknown. I can live and breathe what I have been doing for years and do it with my eyes closed. Over here is something new. And what if I am not successful? What if this really isn't good for me, so I wouldn't even try it? And I think a lot of people are like that in the sense of certain careers or going to school for a particular thing. I understand this, I know this is backwards and forwards over here. I may have to go back to school, I may have to do this, and what if it doesn't work?
Right. So another way that I was thinking, it just came to me very recently as to how our strengths can hold us back, and this is how I actually came to it. So my mom, she actually had a stroke back in 2014. And so the right side of her body is still a little slow. Her right arm is actually almost, I'm not gonna say it's frozen, but it has very little movement to it. And her right leg is a slow move. And ever since 2014, she's been saying that she's gonna heal herself, which I think is just wonderful, And so she's always putting out this good energy and things like that to heal herself. But I believe, and she won't probably admit this to me, right? But I believe that she does not follow the doctor's prescriptions or guidelines. And prior to her having a stroke, I don't know if she ever went to the doctor before, because she always was of the persuasion that she was going to heal herself and that she was keeping herself healthy. But upon having a stroke, and I hope you don't mind me putting all the medical business out there, but once she had the stroke, she realized that she had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes. And so then it's like, okay, were you successful? Even though you went 70-something years with nothing, is this success or is it not success? So we don't have to make a judgment call on it. But the question is, now, in this space and time, are you successful with healing yourself? And so one thing that I realized about my mom is that she's just determined, she's determined. I got this. I know what I'm doing. The doctors, they trying to make me have these things. I don't subscribe to what they're saying to me. And so it's almost like admirable, it's like she's determined. But another word for determination also can be stubborn, right? And so that determination is also a form of stubbornness, but if you can feel the energy that goes behind determined, like it's a this type of energy, right? And my mom, she actually raised 4 kids on less than minimum wage. She always worked 2, 3, and 4 jobs at a time just to get us through. And it was like she had this determination, like, I'm determined, my kids are going to be okay, we're going to be okay. Like, it was this determination, and it was admirable, and I always looked up to it, and, she always inspired awe in me. And so that very strength that she had and that she carried through her life could very well be the thought process that's keeping her frozen in this ailment since 2014. And so I was thinking about that because it's like the very thing that's her strength would be the very thing that she may need to let go of in order to heal. Because you can't heal your body with the same mind that created the disease. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right. And so as I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, well, what about me and my knee and the issues that's going on? And so what's the thought process? I started trying to identify things, and I remember that I always laugh when I say this, but I used to be a control freak. And the reason why that's funny is because a lot of people probably still say that I am. But I used to be really terrible, like really, like having to control every single thing around me, every detail, make sure every T was crossed, every I was dotted. And what that was, it really was a feeling of needing to be able to control my environment so that I could be safe. So being a control freak was really just a symptom of insecurity. Being that control freak, making sure everything was in order, is the thing that propelled me forward. It was one of my greatest strengths, is that I was able to keep everything focused, going, moving. That was my greatest strength. And then I came to realize along the way that that very thing was holding me back, because the only thing that I could have happen in my life were things that I could conceive of and things that I allowed. But there's so much more out there that I don't know anything about. And so in order for that to come in to me, I had to be willing to let go and let the universe pour in. And so it was almost like taking away the very thing that was like my security blanket and the very thing that I perceive as being one of my greatest strengths.
And I think it's a natural thing, because like what you're saying, that was like a protective zone for you, and like with your mom, that's been her thought process for, sounds like, for majority of her life. And her determination is strong, her strong will, and I can do this, I am going to do this, but not realizing that sometimes we don't realize that we need help. There's a whole nother world, there's a whole nother different aspect of it on the other side if we were to let go. And I would say, far as like with myself, it's more of a fear thing. It's like, no, I don't want to go over here because I don't know what that's like. And even when people will tell me, well, you're good at this, you're good at that, I wouldn't listen. I'm like, I'm fine right here. And realizing now that I'm opening up, now I am ready to that point where I'm a person that loves to work with people. I love to help people, but I will fall backwards and not help myself and not propel myself forward, and knowing that I can do other things. And that's that piece of, I would say, holding myself back and hurting myself.
And it's so, what I've learned as I'm processing this whole thing, because like I was saying about my mom and the time, that's like it makes your body contract, and like me with the need to control, like,
like I can see you like holding on like with all your strength. Yeah. And that very thing, if you're contracting, that's not expanding with the universe. That's
it's the opposite of what you want to do. So if you're trying to heal, for example, like my mom is doing, but she's in this, then she's unable to expand and be open to the possibilities of the universe. And I have a friend who, he always expects the worst in situations. And so he said that that's how he rolls. Like, if I expect the worst, then if the worst happens, then I'm okay. Because that's what I was expecting. But we can all imagine, like, what kind of life is that? If you're walking around expecting the worst. And what kind of stress chemicals are formed in your body? What's happening when you're expecting the worst? So I was thinking about that, and also thinking about, with me, I know I shared this story before, but when I was like a teenager, and I was looking for a job, and I remember going into, I went to every store on Broad Street, every door, asking them were they hiring, but I went to every door saying, y'all aren't hiring, are y'all? And I remember the lady saying, listen, come here. That's not how you ask for a job. But really, that reflected how I thought at the time and how I tend to still think. And I typically think the answer is no. So I'm already believing that you're going to tell me no. Therefore, I spend my life not asking the question. Right? I don't ask for anything because I always believe
it's going to be no.
The answer is no.
Even still?
Okay, so the way I still don't ask. I don't ask. And it's become one of my greatest strengths is that I know how to get anything done. I don't need anybody. I know how to get it done because I've avoided asking, because that's fear-based, right? I'm afraid. I'm afraid to ask because I don't want to hear the no. So when I think about it logically today, no, I know that people aren't sitting around waiting to tell me no. Right. But I still carry that, it's something in me that still doesn't allow me to ask. I'm still in that energy field of, it's almost like, because I know back then I thought the world was a unsafe place and not kind. But when I think about it, I realize that I've never been in an unsafe world. I've never had people treat me unkind. The only place I was unsafe was in my home. But outside of my home, I was never unsafe. Like, the world has always treated me in a kind way. But I projected that onto the whole entire world. So I'm not the person that's going out thinking, oh, the world is a terrible place. I don't think that at all. Like, I don't think that at all. I think the world is fabulous. But I still hold that pattern of not asking because I think people are going to say no.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I would be forced to give up my strength, which is to figure stuff out myself and get it done myself. Like, that's my strength. But in order to grow, how different of an energy am I putting out if I'm living in a world where everybody is conspiring to help me versus a world where everybody's conspiring to tell me no?
Big difference. Big difference. And it's amazing how that our own thought process and what I would call it a paradigm of what we put ourselves in, the box that we put ourselves in, and we really don't even realize it until someone kind of brings it to light, and we're stubborn. I can say I'm stubborn, because I'll hear you and then not hear you, and it's like, oh, that sounds good, but no, I'm not, I'm good right here, and I would think about the other things that, well, maybe I could do that. And the first and that voice over here will be like, no, you're good. Mm-hmm. So they'll keep me in that same place, So we have endless possibilities of what we can do.
Right. Yeah. Right. And I think that a lot, like, okay, I know this guy. I know I'm kind of affiliatory. And he's brilliant. And he is able to really do a great analysis on race relations in Richmond. Excellent writer and able to break it down really, really well. However, when he does so, it comes across very judgmental, very harsh, and very bitter. And it's like all the people over here are evil, and all the people over here are either ignorant or apathetic. And so that's the way what he's doing comes across. So his strength is he has a great ability to analyze the situation of race relations. I mean, it's a real strength of his. But he's into that energy that doesn't allow that strength to, I guess, expand. It doesn't, it's almost not helpful to have that strength because it kind of turns people away on both sides of the issue. And so what I realized is when we, like I said, when we feel contracted, that fear-based thing, is we're operating from our ego. It's fear-based, it's, like I said, contracted, it's judgmental, it's all those things.
It's tense, it's very tense.
Right. And so when we're coming from that place, the energy that we're putting out and thus what we're attracting back is not going to be the best. And so we can have the same issues. Let's take him, for example, his great analysis on race relations. But instead of it coming from an ego base, what if it came from his spirit? Like if he's projecting from his spirit. And in that space, then rather than it's an uplifting of humanity. It's like it's a different energy. And if you can think about, let's say, Nelson Mandela, when he went to prison, he wasn't thinking, I'm going to become the president of South Africa. But he realized that somebody needed to do it, somebody with humanity. And that was something he had. And he realized, well, dang, maybe it's me. And by the same token, like he put out a different energy in order to get the same thing accomplished.
So with your friend that you're talking about, I mean, have you had this kind of conversation with him in that sense of the different sides?
Well, first of all, let me say, again, we're not friends. It's kind of somebody in my affiliation, but also I'm just realizing this.
Okay.
Like
okay.
within a week.
Okay, so it's very new. Okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to kind of see or feel how he would think about that from that standpoint. And so many people, because again, you stop and you think about your strength. And the things that we're talking about is not an everyday thing that people actually go out and sit down and think about until it's brought to their attention. And again, I repeating myself, but the endless possibilities of what we can do, coming outside of the norm, coming outside of that box that we basically planted ourselves in, whether it goes all the way back to childhood or whatever it may be. Everything on this side, even though it may be unknown, but that's also exciting as well. And just to think about what we have the potential to be versus staying here or going over here.
Yeah. So the thought of giving up something that's what you do. This is what I do.
Yeah, that's hard though.
And it's hard. I think the way that you can figure out, like, is this the thing that I should be giving up? Is if this thing causes you to contract. The reason that you're doing it, the reason that I was controlling everything, it was fear-based, it was insecurity-based. The reason why I figure out a way to get anything done and don't ask questions, don't ask for help, that's fear-based. That's a contracted emotion. But if I can flip it to something expansive, then I could keep it, But the whole point is that we want to be expansive and not contract.
Okay. Well, as far as with me, I'm ready to step outside of that box, you know, and because it's a whole world and endless possibilities, and I want to challenge myself to see what Diana can do.
Right. Well, that sounds awesome. So I think we can close out now. And again, I just want to reiterate just the ideal of your greatest strength could be this very thing that you might need to let go of to let new things pour into your life. So just think about some of your strengths and think about why you've developed those things. And again, if it's a reason in it that's kind of ego-based or fear-driven, then consider just letting it go and letting other things pour into your life. So if you would do me a favor and subscribe to our podcast by clicking the link below, that would be greatly appreciated. So until next time, this is Arvat.
This is Diana.
Bye.
Bye.